Thanks, Jim. Do you want to say something, either Jim or Carol, about the OAS imaging section first? Maybe just a couple of minutes, and then I'll leap into what we're doing today.
I'll invite Carol to do that.
Well, you could have warned me. Well, basically, we're getting more and more people in OAS using these smart scopes, and we've got our group of regular images there as well. And one day I spotted an image that Paul had done on our forum, and I thought, this can't possibly be a smart image. It was just so, it looked like a conventional image. And then when I looked into it further, he'd used a lot of techniques that the average smart telescope user isn't using, not apart from Paul. So I asked him if he'd be willing to give a tutorial, and here we are.
Cool. Thanks, Carol. Right. Okay, then, guys. So as Carol says, she invited me a little while back. It was just around about Christmas time, to give a talk on sort of my use of the smart telescope. What do I do? So what I've done is sort of broken it up into sort of 3 or 4 sections. So I think, Carol, you mentioned specifically processing, but I think there's more to it than just processing as well, and I think that might be helpful for folks.
Yeah.
If you've got any questions, then shout them out as we go. And the WhatsApp group that I've set up is a joint OAS and Lewes Astronomical Society WhatsApp, and I hope that sort of carries on after this call as well, so folks can share images and share questions and thoughts. So it says, yes, it does work. First of all, how did I get interested in smart telescope? Well, there's a guy at Lewes called Stephen Hass who introduced me to the smart telescopes. Until then, I hadn't really understood the possibilities of these little scopes, with no way of looking through an eyepiece. What's going on there? So Stephen gave a short talk to Lewes on his Dwarf 3, and that planted a bit of a seed. So in 2024, I bought Seestar S50. I did consider the Dwarf, but the objects that I'm interested in fitted best in the field of view of the S50 and the S50 specs. And my interest is in sort of deep sky subjects rather than maybe the wide field, which is where the Dwarf sort of excels in. So I ordered the little scope from Aunt Flo on the 22nd of September, and amazingly we had some clear skies. And soon after it arrived, my first image was M31. And then I wondered, so I did M31, and then I thought, I wonder if I can do Stephan's Quintet, which is a small group in Higgs galaxy cluster groups. And you can see, yes, you can get Stephan's Quintet with a smart telescope with only a few, that was about 30-minute exposure. I also had a bash at Uranus as well. So we've got Uranus Aerial was in there somewhere. It's one of the, it's this little one here. So I'd always wanted to image the Helix planetary nebula, and you see 7293, but it's really low down, about 18 degrees it gets to above the horizon. So from my observatory I can get maybe 2 hours, because the walls of the observatory sort of get in the way. And then there's the astro imaging rule of don't image anything below 30 degrees altitude. So I never really got round to doing it. But now with the Seestar, so first of all, I do actually. So my observatory's over here, and it's sort of down. The garden drops by about half a metre, and the walls of the observatory sort of come up to about here, so it sort of obscures some of the horizon. But this is where I've plonked the little Seestar. I do have a very good southeastern horizon over the hedge, and sort of 18 degrees is sort of around here, so it's not too bad. So I thought I'd have a go. Actually, the first set of pictures, I actually set the Seestar up on its supplied tripod. The one you saw there we'll talk about later. But I set up on its supplied tripod, stuck it on the garden bench, and just hoped the badgers weren't going to knock it flying, and pointed it at the Helix. And to my absolute delight, there the Helix was. Now I'm going to go back a couple of slides just to look at something of interest. And we can see here with the Stephan's quintet, you might be able to see sort of dark edges here, and there's a sort of dark area here and here. So this is the field rotation, because the Seestar's an alt-azimuth mount. And I thought, Helix Nebula is going to fit within the field that doesn't rotate. So although quite often folks will say don't image with a Altaz smart telescope for more than 40 minutes an hour, I thought, why not image for longer and just make the use of the format that the sensor is, and crop the bits that I don't want, because I'm going to get as much as I can within of the object, allowing the field rotation to proceed. So over 8 nights, sorry, did you have a question, Jim?
No.
Sorry to flash up. So over 8 nights, from October the 3rd to November the 29th, I gathered just over 11 hours of data, and it gave me 4,081 images and a headache. Now the headache is the Windows file limit. So I decided that, and I'll show you reasons why I decided. I process the images from the Seestar out of the box. I use the raw FITS file rather than just doing the processing within Seestar. I do process in Seestar, but really just to keep a record of what images I've taken that night on my phone. But there is a problem, because we're imaging at 10-second imaging with 10-second integrations, and 11 hours 20 minutes and 10 seconds gave me 4,081 images. When I came to stack those in the software that I use, and I use Siril to stack, it said I can't do it, and I found out why. So Windows has a file limit, so it can open 2,048 files at any one time. And because I've got 4,000, it just can't open. Siril just can't open them all and stack and align them all. So I did a bit of investigation, and I looked at this guy's. I did the investigation, found out what the problem was, and then searched to see if anybody had any answers. And this guy comes up with the answer. I do have the link to his video at the end of this, which you'll have on the slide pack. So if you think of you've got a folder full of thousands of files. Now the FITS format, you can have a single image within a FIT file, or you can have multiple images within a FITS file. And if you think of it as like a roll of film, so the roll of film is the FITS file with lots of different images, or think of it as like a movie file. And what this guy's done is changed the script that Siril uses to do the align and stack, so that the first thing it does is to take all of the files that are in your folder for processing, and then combine them into a single FITS file. So you've got one FITS file with 4,081 images in it. Then Siril can just say, okay, well, I'll just take that one file. I'll open that one file. Oh, I've got loads of images in there. Fine. I'll just process them as if they were all separate images. So that got round my first problem for processing of deep images, where when you've got many files. And I think this is the first thing that why maybe my images struck Carol is not because that may be the way I process them. It's just that I've got lots of data, so I'm taking lots of data, which I think that the many folks with a smart telescope will go, okay, I'll image that. I've 5 minutes on this, 5 minutes on that, and dot around and look at different things, which is what I did 25 years ago when I first got a CCD, because you can pick up M51 in a minute, So now the S50, the Seestar does the dark calibration for you. I'm not taking this for astrometry. I'm not looking at getting accurate magnitude measurements. So I'm not doing any additional calibration other than letting the Seestar do its dark calibration. So I'm not taking bias frames, and I'm not doing flats. At the moment, the optics, the optical path is lovely and clear, and I'm not getting any dust bunts. Yeah. So Siril. So this is the script that is in this chap. So there's a link below his YouTube. There's a link to the script that he's written, or sort of modified for the Siril align and stack. And this is a screenshot of it. And this bit here, the first block that's the bit he added in to convert all the single files into a single FITS file. The second thing to point out is that Siril has it does a image quality check as well when it's doing its alignment and stacking. And the filter that it uses by default, I think, is around 2,500. And I found that some of the images that it was rejecting, I would quite happily include in my image. So I played around with it and went up to and again you can change the script, and I changed it from 2.5 to 2.5. Sorry, yeah, 2 to 2.5 to 3, 3.5, and 4,000. The higher the number, the more it's going to allow through. And I found for me, most of the time, the 3.5 seems to be about the best option. So I'm just gonna, if I can, oops, that gives the game away. I'll just stop the share for the moment. I'm just gonna share my whole screen. Yes, I can. Okay, so we're just going to quickly look at Siril. So first thing to say is I've got a NAS drive. I've got like a network drive where I store all of my astronomical images. But even though it's on a 1 gigabyte network drive, if you start processing your images across a network, you're going to be all day. And I was the first time I did it. I think it was 20 hours that it did the for doing the stacking. So I've got a local drive in this machine, and I've set up T Corona Borealis as the demo here. So I will then, if we open this, we find that I've got a folder called lights, capital L lights, and this is the way that Siril will understand which files it needs to include in its processing. So if you look at my Perseus one, I've got flats, lights, so it's going to do some flat processing. It's going to do the light processing, but as I say, the Seestar does the
Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't see anything, Paul, on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I not? I mean,
Just about to say the same thing.
okay. Let me share that. Can you see that?
No.
No.
Is that? Have you got it now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's come
Okay,
back.
cool. Oh, great. I thought I was sharing the full screen, but it wasn't. Okay, so I've got a working directory for Siril. I've got to say working directory. I then have all the objects that I'm processing. And I was saying, looking at the Perseus one, you can see we've got a flats folder, we've got a lights folder. The process and the fit, these are the ones that get generated by Siril in the process. So this will say, okay, I've got flats calibration to do on these lights. So this is the demo one I've set up. So T Corona Borealis from last night. And we've got 50 items in here. So we've got 50 files in here. I'm gonna...
What's the format that the Seestar puts out?
Creates fits files.
They are fits.
So it'll create JPEGs. So it'll have a full fat JPEG. It'll create basically a full resolution. It'll create a thumbnail JPEG, and it'll also create fits files as well. So I throw away the JPEGs and keep the fits. So I need to stop and share something. Oh, can I just change what I'm sharing? Okay, let me just. I'm just going to fire up Siril, and then I can share it. Right, look at it.
Do you have to take calibration frames with the Seestar, or does the Seestar do it for you?
So that's what I was saying, Carol D. So Seestar will do the dark calibration for you, and it'll apply it to the image as it's taken it.
Wow.
But flats and bias it doesn't do, and I say that because the image train at the moment is nice and clean. I'm not doing any flats, and I'm not bothering with biases either at the moment. What am I sharing at the moment? What can you guys?
Lights.
Paul, just before you go on, there was a chat that just came up. If you want to click your chat, I think someone's made a comment.
Okay. I have to stop sharing.
Sorry, Paul, it's just Richie being a pain. I'm looking it up as I speak. There's a setting in the Seestar you have to set, otherwise it doesn't save all your sub exposures.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, yes, that's I'd forgotten completely about that. There's a couple of things that I guess you do when you start up, and you sort of take it for granted. So yeah, thanks. Yes, you're quite right. You do have to say save all of my subs. Otherwise, the only thing it will save is the final JPEG image. So that's there. Thanks for that. Thanks for the reminder for that one.
I'll pull up the some screenshots so you can share them in the chat.
Marvelous. That's brilliant. Thank you. Right, there's Siril. So okay. So this is Siril. So to kick off your alignment and stack, you have to tell it where to find the files. So here I've got it. Hopefully that the screen share is working, and you're seeing a select folder screen there, and it's yep, cool. So
Paul, I don't want to ruin your flow, but I don't know if this is important to your story as well.
Yeah.
When I first used Siril, it's Simon here. When I first used Siril, I realized on the dwarf I had no flats or biases. So I found a piece of script that would just accept the darks that dwarf had, and then off it went and it stacked. Is that what you've done, or you seem to have modified something so you do have a bias file? Have I missed a process?
No, I don't have any bias files. I don't have any dark files. The darks are applied to the Seestar image on the Seestar itself before it saves the fits.
Okay, and then did you rewrite the Siril script so that it didn't need to look for those then? Because otherwise it normally will just look for them.
It will look for them, but if they're not in your file directory, so if I open this up, so if you've only got lights in there, then it says, okay, I haven't got darks, so I'm not going to.
Okay. When I had it, it was being
so
a pain
I think there
about
are some Siril scripts that you can choose, and so this specific Siril script that I'm using doesn't bother to. It's only looking for the lights.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I don't have a dwarf, so there will be things that will be common across both the dwarf, the Seestar, and if you've got loads of money to spend, then the Veritasium, whatever it is, £1,500–2,000 version of a smart telescope. So when you so let me just I'm just gonna go again. So I go to the home key. I choose the directory that I'm interested in. I don't open the lights, just leave that. So it's T Corona Borealis. If there were any other, so if I was to go to the Perseus, you see I've got the flats and the lights there, the process and stuff is stuff that's been generated. So in that case, it would pick those out. But I want the T Corona Borealis. I'm going to open that. And somewhere down the bottom here, it tells you what one you're working on. And then the script. So you've got a whole selection of scripts that you can choose from. And there's a specific Seestar processing script that comes with Siril. There's the script that the fellow that I was talking about, whose YouTube channel sorted out the 2048 file limit. That's the script there, and then these are my scripts that I've added in. And within his YouTube channel, it shows you how you modify and how you copy in the scripts and make them available to Siril. So if I just click that script, that's going to run that script. I chose this one rather than the image that I was running last night, because the image that I was running last night took, I think, about an hour to do the.
We haven't got 4,081 images in this, have we?
No, you haven't got. You got 50 images in this one, Carol. So I thought you didn't want to sort of like sit there. Okay, go away for an hour and come back and I'll show you. So yeah, there it's done. So so you got the. You can see that this is if we see the banner here, we recognize that Deep Space Astro. That was the banner that we saw in the script that that I was modifying, and that's taken 13 seconds. So that's run nice and quickly. I want to stop sharing and I'm going to go off and I'm just going to start up something else. Bear with me while this starts up. Okay, and I need to. Okay, let's see what I can share at the moment. Come on, share. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Okay, so we come back to the folder I was working on. We can see we've got lights, and we've now got processed, and we've also got a the fits file. We go into the process. Here's the there's the fits file that now contains all 50 fits images, and it's, what is it, 1/4 of a gigabyte, just under. So what I would do now is to go to the fits file that's been generated, open that. Now I use PixInsight for my image processing. The one that it clicks with me. I've tried lots of different things, and it's just the one that clicks. You'll all have your own preferred processing options. So if I go into PixInsight, and very quickly, if that bar moves out of the way, stretch the image. So here's our image. It's out of the 50, it's rejected one of the files. So we've got 49 10-second exposures, and T Corona Borealis still hasn't gone bang, because there he is. And he'd be a darn sight brighter than that if he had. So that's sort of what I wanted to show you from the I'll go back to the slideshow. Hopefully, this is the right one. Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, we were still talking about the Helix Nebula, and the fact that I'd never imaged it before, and it was a challenge to image. And here's the resulting image. So I've stacked it in Siril, I've processed it in PixInsight, and I'll take you through my my workflow for processing later on. And this was say 4,081 subs, and I got just over 9 hours of useful data out of that. So Siril rejected some and sent through aligned and stacked the rest, which I then finished processing. So then I went for an even bigger challenge as far as elevation was concerned. NGC 253, the Silver Coin Galaxy, it doesn't get above 14 degrees altitude for me down in Sussex. And even then, we were able to get reasonable amount of detail out of it, considering its low altitude, the amount of area we're looking through, and that we're using just a full 50mm piece of glass. So my first point here is, I think, again, this one, I've cropped top and bottom where you get field rotation, and just really made use of the instrument as best I can, taking long exposures, taking the mickey with it really by pointing it almost at the ground to get images of objects that you don't often see from the UK. So next thing, gear upgrades. Everybody loves to spend a bit of money, and you buy one telescope, it's never going to be the last thing for that telescope that you buy. So the first thing I did was I wanted to make sure that I could run it overnight, and I needed a power pack. So I bought a power pack off of Amazon for 25 quid. I 3D printed the holder, the orange holder you can see there, and it gets wrapped up in its little little sort of handy bag to stop the frost from falling on it. Probably doesn't keep the battery that much warmer overnight, but it helps a little bit. The second thing that I bought was the leveling platform, because when you're doing it with, and first few months I was still using the supplied tripod, which is quite a little diddy thing. It's about 12 inches tall, and it's quite tricky to get the alignment. And for when you're running out as mode, you need to get the Seestar as level as possible. So next thing I bought was one of these things. So leveling platform, and I looked on Amazon. So I looked on First Light Optics. I thought 30 quid. Oh, that seems to be quite a bit of money. So I looked on Amazon and Alibaba. I found one for 13 quid. I thought, right, that's a bargain. I'll order that. Bought it. It turned up. It was bloody horrible. So it looked exactly the same, but the engineering on it was appalling. The tripod bush here was supposed to be 3/8 inch tripod bush. Didn't fit onto the tripod, and there's a nut in here, machine sort of nut in here where you screw the. Sorry, there's another machine bolt on there that screws into the Seestar, and that wasn't the right size either. So the first one of those went straight into the recycling bin. I wasn't even going to bother taking it and maybe using it for something else, because the engineering on it was appalling. And I went back to Antflow and spent my £29, and it's lovely. It just makes leveling the instrument a whole lot easier. The second thing I bought was this newer GM34, which is a quick release plate. It just means that you're not trying to balance the Seestar on the tripod while you're trying to screw it in and thinking, I just hope I don't drop this in the middle of the night, because it's going to make a nasty noise when it hits the ground. So you can take the plate out, which is this top piece, screw that into the bottom of the Seestar, and then click the Seestar into the base. It just makes it just means that things are a lot safer for the instrument. You're not juggling and about to drop something. The last thing, not something I bought for the Seestar, but something I bought 15 years ago. So I was an early adopter for Astrometric. I used it a few times, but then I stopped using it. I got better better mounts, and I put it in the loft. And I thought, I wonder if I can use the Astrotrack pier. So it's got like a portable pier for the Seestar, and yeah, that works a treat. But I wouldn't recommend going out and buying one of those just to put your Seestar on. A decent tripod with a counterweight hung underneath will give you the stability that you need. So then the next thing, not necessarily the thing that I bought, was I wanted to be able to control the Seestar remotely, but I also wanted to sleep. So, but I wanted to take images of different objects while I was asleep. And this was before the scheduling option came out for the Seestar itself. So I'm going to stop sharing and do a quick demo on the Seestar ALP. And can I share? Is there a way to share the whole screen, entire screen? Right. Do you see my screen changing, folks?
Yes.
Great. Excellent. That's good. Okay. So Seestar, and I've got links to the software for this. It's a free software. It's a community software, and yeah, it allows you connect to your scope. The first thing you do is, after you've configured it all, and it goes through the configuration process, you fire up it's like a DOS script, or it's probably a Python script that runs in the background. It just says startup and complete. All you do is then minimize that, and that's, you don't look at that again. And then you fire up the Seestar Alp, which is a web interface. And I've got my little Seestar sitting outside. I have a feeling it's probably cloudy. Let me just check. But I'm going to feeling it wasn't looking very clear when I went out earlier. Oh, that's not working either. Yeah, oh no, it is, yeah. It says -1.5, so go get the beer. So I have my beer here ready for afterwards. So yes, it's cloudy outside, but what we'll do, so if we go into the functions, we can see sort of different bits within. So this is now communicating with the Seestar configuration. So now where's the bit that we would settings? Is that one in here? So you can change the dither rate. You can yeah, here we go. There's a save subframe. So yeah, the piece that you're talking about earlier. So yes, enable save subframes. You can do it on the app, but you can also change it on the ALP as well. We can put the light pollution filter on. We can turn it off, turn it on, turn the dew heater on, etc. But the bits that are really useful are the schedule. So I can say, okay, I want to have the Seestar start up. I want to wait until 1944 minutes time. I guess it will probably change by the time. So you can have that as sort of like an hour's time, 2 hours time. I can set my light pollution filter on, enable that, but I can then also say I want to set my images. So
Paul, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Dave here.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah, I've been using the Seestar for quite some time. I think I've communicated a few times with you over WhatsApp. You gave me quite a few tips in the past. I mean, I'm really interested in this. You know, to actually control your Seestar when you're sleeping, or to get it all arranged for what you want to do in the future.
Yeah.
So, do you use this in tandem with the app, with the Seestar app itself, or you don't use the Seestar app at all? You just use this instead?
So yeah, good question. So what I'll do is I'll fire up the Seestar app here. So you can still will it yeah, okay. So I don't know if you can see that. There's my app. So I can open the arm. I can set the anti-dew on. So I can do stuff with the app, and I do use the app. I use the app more from a monitor when I'm away from the computer as well. So it's not going to show you. It's not going to show it tonight. But we'll start a. Obviously, it's not going to image anything because it's not going to find anything because it's cloudy. Tycho Borealis. Look up the coordinates. I want to also focus it. I want to image that for 10 minutes. I set the gain. Pretty much kept it at a default of 80. And if it's cloudy, how many times do I want it to retry? So I'll get it to retry twice and leave 60 seconds between each retry. So submit that. So that's going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to image M101. and I want to image M101 for 6 hours. I want it to autofocus again, so I want to just make sure it refocuses. I'd probably give it more than 2 tries, probably give it 5 tries, something like that. And we can see it's starting to slowly build up a schedule. The only thing you can't do is then go in and edit the schedule. You have to clear the schedule and then do it again, which is a little bit of a pain. But hey, it's once you've got your schedules done, and you can save the schedule as well, and you can save it and so you download the schedule, give it a name, and then import it, and then import the schedule back in. So you can create a schedule if maybe you're going to use 2 or 3 times. So we're going to do a shutdown. So there's sort of reasonable. I could have put in a pause here, wait until 9 o'clock. Maybe it's not quite high. Maybe M101 isn't quite high enough. It probably isn't at the moment. It's the house is in the way. So I might have said, okay, do Corona Borealis, then wait until 9 o'clock, and then do 101. So you can do it. And then we'll click start. Now the thing on the startup, so it's going to raise the arm. It's going to do an autofocus. Now I'm running in EQ mode now, which is a bit of a jump forward, but you can either so in the startup, so you could say, actually I'm running in EQ mode, so I don't want it to do the polar align. So you leave that out and get it to take the dark frames. So it's going to do all of these. So it's currently running this one piece, and we can see a bit more detail on what it's doing by looking at the commands. And you get a little sort of you get a dashboard of what's going on. And
hi Paul, it's
hi Robert.
Just a very quick question. I can see that you're running this on your PC.
Yeah.
This obviously connected to the Seestar in some way. Are you connected to this via the local Wi-Fi? Because obviously you're doing the demo on the Zoom as well.
It I am. Yes. So if we look at the good question. I think it's in here, isn't it? So it's it opens up it communicates with the Seestar through a couple of ports. So
okay.
you in your in the configuration, again, it tells you how to do the configuration. You can have multiple Seestars as well. So if you've got 2 or 3 Seestars, you can talk to them individually. And so give it a name, and then it communicates via an IP port exactly on your local network. So you're on your local network. So
yeah.
what I've done, my Wi-Fi.
Just to interrupt, Paul. Don't forget that they have to enable station mode in order for it to work.
Yeah, yes, you do. And again, station mode is again something that going back to turning it on for all of the images. The first thing I struggled with was I've connected to my Seestar and I've lost internet connection on my device, so I can't get to Google and find out how to do stuff on the Seestar. Yeah, exactly that, Richie. The very first thing I think I did was, before turning on all of the save all the frames, was to enable station mode. Yeah, thank you.
I've put the screenshots for how to enable the individual image saving in our WhatsApp group. I will also just do that to show people how to do station mode as well. Stand by.
Right.
Cheers, Richie.
And I would say, as a Dwarf 3 user, there's something called STA mode, which I think must be exactly the same. And I've had the software engineers in Singapore use my house Wi-Fi to connect to Dwarf 3 and then solve some problem they had on it.
Cool.
And I think that is the exact same thing. If I put it on STA mode, I can use the house Wi-Fi, which is powerful enough to get into the garden and talk to Dwarf. And now I can do other things like damn it, I want to look at IC 443 and it hasn't got it on the star atlas, and I'll put the coordinates in, and I don't have to then switch off from Dwarf 3, go and find it on Google and start again.
Yeah, cool. Cheers, guys. Thanks for that. So let's go back to the command, see if it's got anywhere. And yeah, well, it's not surprising. Autofocus has failed. We've got 10/10 or 8/8 cloud above us here in near Uckfield. So what you would have seen, I don't know whether I've still got. Have I got the pics? With me. Observation have I got the? Oh, it's come on. It's just come on. Okay. So this is the one I was running, I think, last night. So that's what you would see if we had some stars and clear sky above us. So you get green all the way across, and have I got a my view? Yeah, and then you can go on to go to live view. Of course, live view now is going to be cloudy. But here again, it was from last night, and actually it was the night before. It was a bit of a bad night. I was dropping a lot of frames. Last night, I think the frame drop I got up to before I went to bed, it was about 800 stack frames, and there was one drop frame in EQ mode. So, but yeah, the night before was a bit of a nightmare. So that's like a really bit of a quick introduction to make you aware that the Seestar ALP is available. Not that one. Oh, status. Yeah, this one. So because I'm in EQ mode, it works out how far I'm off of polar alignment I am, and that looks pretty cool to me. So that was no need to change anything. Now whereabouts am I? Bear with me when I work out where on earth I am on the which screen switch. You do have a blind polar alignment option with the Seestar ALP. So if you can't even see the Polaris, then there's a function in here if you enable the advanced features within Seestar ALP to give you this blind polar alignment option, and it'll tell you how far you're off, whether you need to move it in azimuth or altitude until you get pretty much close to polar alignment. Obviously, it's not going to do anything like that at all for us tonight because we've got no sky to play with. And I think that's probably finished. Yes, so the script, so it's done the startup. Can't find any stars. It's waited till 1944. It's enabled the light pollution filter. It's gone and looked for T Corona Borealis. Hasn't found it. It's then gone and looked for M001. Hasn't found it. Tried it twice. And so it's then said, okay, well, I'll shut down. So it's now shut down the Seestar. Seestar's now gone to sleep. So that's it for a quick demo on Seestar ALP, which has meant that I actually get some sleep, and amazingly, these last few weeks we've had lots of clear skies, so it's been fantastic. So I did briefly talk and sort of mention EQ mode. So beginning of March, I finally thought, okay, well, I've got a few clear skies coming up. I can waste one trying to set up EQ mode. And it didn't take long to set up. In fact, I set this up during the day. So again, it's using the old Astrometric portable pier. I've got it on 3 roof tiles so that I can. It keeps it nice and level. It's not going to shift too much with ground moving up and down or sinking into the ground. Yeah, and the next piece of kit that I bought was the William Optics wedge. Now, and there are lots of different wedges available. So it's on where I am in my notes. Yeah, so there's a Skywatcher wedge. You could use a photographic ball and socket tripod. There's some of the guys on the Seestar Facebook page. One guy in particular has come up with a really ingenious way of using the provided 12-inch tall tripod and a bit of kit to give a nice stable EQ option for the Seestar. The only thing that you need to make sure is if you are going to put this in equatorial mode, equatorial configuration, just make sure it's not going to fall over, because you're now throwing the center of gravity is now way well over the top of the tripod. So when the arm swings around, it could fall if it's not set up correctly, set up safely. So I found that in EQ mode, it's been excellent. Many fewer reject frames, and of course you get no field rotation at all, or very little, depending on how tight you are to the pole. And you can image right up through the zenith, so you're imaging in the best part of the sky, the bits where there's less atmosphere. Moving away from my low altitude sort of play, but with the EQ Altaz mode, as soon as you get above 80 degrees altitude, things start to get a bit iffy, and you're going to reject a lot of frames. It can't quite keep up with the tracking. So I've used the S50 for solar observing as well, and the last bit of kit that I've bought is bought some Barda solar film, and I bought the CCD version, which has got a lower neutral density to it, so it allows more light through. You mustn't use it for optical, but it is much better for for imaging. And this was so it's just a supplied filter, and we can see we get a fair bit of mush around the side of the sun, and I don't think that the sunspots are as crisp as they are with the Barda solar film. And I 3D printed just a holder. I think some folks have modified the holder that came with it to put Barda solar film in. So, any questions on kit? I'm coming to the last bit, probably another 20 minutes, guys, I suppose, just to give you an idea. If anybody need a break now, or are we okay to carry on?
I've got a few questions. Do you mind?
Yeah, you sure?
Being a conventional imager, obviously this is quite different to me. You had talked about stacking those thousands worth of exposures.
Yeah.
Could you not have done them in batches and then stacked the stacks?
if you stack stacks, then you're not making you're not getting the best out of the averaging. So you could by accident stack a batch of images that have so you got 4,000 images. If you said, okay, batching them up into batches of 100, you could have a batch of 100 in that particular run where the quality maybe isn't quite so good. So I think you would end up skewing the averaging. I'm not an expert on that, but that's my thought, Carol.
Just a thought, anyway.
Yeah. So it probably would have been the thing to do if there were no other option.
Right. I think you've covered most of the others. Some of these smart scopes actually will do the processing for you. Post-processing.
Yep. So I'll just coming on to that now.
Yeah. Okay, you're going to cover that.
Yep. Okay. So
sorry. Before you move on,
sorry.
I've got one question. When you showed the telescope in equatorial mode, it looks like obviously the arm swings up somehow, and obviously that's where the balance issues can come in. But is it just the actual Seestar that moves, or does the actual equatorial plate does that move at all, or is that
okay?
Fixed?
Okay, good question. So the Seestar has a gimbal or a bush or something within the base of the telescope itself, which is then screwed into the dovetail plate here.
Right.
The equatorial the wedge doesn't move. It sits there, and the telescope then spins on the wedge.
Yeah.
Now, what's really weird is you might be able to see here, but that's probably close to 39 degrees there. If you were to read that. Now I'm at latitude 51, minus about 3 seconds. So why is it at 39? So it's 39. So for a normal telescope, you'd probably have this bit would be pointing north. So here, where it says William Optics, that would be pointing north. That is actually pointing south. And this part of the telescope needs to be pointing north at 51 degrees. So in order for that to be pointing at 51 degrees, and if this is rotated by 180 degrees, I need 90 degrees minus 51, which gives me 39 degrees. So I sort of like had to think about this a couple of times, draw it and think about it again. I think, yeah, I am pointing this in the right direction, and I've got this set up. And then so I used just a normal compass with a straight edge along the side of the wedge to get me pointing north. And then on my phone, I've got a sort of elevation calibration. So I put the phone, making sure none of the buttons were touching any of the base here, so that it's as flat as possible, and got that pointing to 39 degrees, pointing south, if you like, which meant that when I put the Seestar on, this part of the Seestar is pointing north at 51 degrees.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cool. So, yeah, image processing. So I am not the best image processor on this call. There are folks here that are much more proficient at image processing than I am. I've got quite a simple workflow for the S50. I mentioned that I use PixInsight. I have tried lots of other things. Greg, 25 years ago, tried to teach me Photoshop. I understood some bits, but it didn't didn't go in my head. But finally, PixInsight is a tool that I'm happy using. It's expensive, but then so is if you need to buy a brand new version of Photoshop or MaxDL, or they're all expensive pieces of software. Siril is free. If I wasn't using PixInsight, I would probably have a bash at Siril. So if you haven't got imaging software, take a look at Siril. Take a look at GIMP. And there are lots of tutorials on the web now for Siril. So I would recommend looking at that. So here's some images. These are the images an image that I was taking last night. Some images that I've taken from, it's Friday night. Oh, there were three nights, pretty much just after the full moon. So yeah, full moon's Friday. You had the eclipse Friday morning, Friday evening, I think Saturday evening, and then last night. So I've been fighting with moonlight with this image, and bearing in mind what I'm trying to pull out. It's amazing what the little Seestar can do. So it's just over 389 minutes of imaging that I took last night, which I was going to add to the rest. So I think 6 hours or so of imaging. Now, something that you can see here. So this is taken directly out of the Seestar. You can see it's the Seestar branded stuff. This is the one. So I ran the on the app. I ran the Deep Sky stack, and I said go off and stack, and give me the image, because I want it for reference in my phone to say this is when I took these images. It took 2 hours to process that image. So then I used the image processing tools within the S50 to try and bring out some of the detail in here. And if you squint, you can see there's a bit of spiral arm in here in M94. You can see the outer, or the inner ring. You see the darker halo and a bit of connection between that and the outer ring of the galaxy. So yeah, okay. So you can use the app. I think the images look a bit green. Certainly something to be aware of if you're doing long exposure imaging on the Seestar is that you'll start to see this mottled crap in the back. And I think it's just because the camera's uncooled, and we're getting some noise from the sensor. It's a similar pattern that you see on any image, and you get these sort of different sort of mottled colours coming through. So you have to try and sort of process some of those out. Just for reference, so from the Hubble Atlas of Galaxies, here's M94, here's M94 again, and here's this the outer ring of star forming region, which is what we can see here. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yes, you can process, and you can get the image out of the box using the app, using nothing else. So you can get stuff out there, but I think you are limited. And if you do your own processing, then it gives you finer control. You've got more control over what you're doing. So first thing that I do is I remove the gradient. So I use Grexpert, which is free. Unfortunately, it gets rid of the gradient. Lovely, yeah. So we've got moonlight and Lord knows what else. We're starting to see the outer ring of star forming on M94, but it's really emphasised the noise, that colour noise background in the image. We also got, because my second night of imaging, it didn't quite put M94 in the center, so we've got a bit of mush to the side. So the second thing that I think you always do, regardless, is to crop. So you crop the rubbish out. And you can then crop into the image. When I was doing Altaz images, the cropping would be sort of this sort of size. So I'm sort of taking the middle third of the sensor. The rest of it was you've got the field rotation, but I didn't care. I don't care. I'm interested in what's in the middle, so I'm quite happy to throw the rubbish away. The next thing to do, because you've cropped it, you've lost the astrometry that has been set within the FITS header in the image that's been provided by the Seestar. So you have to go off and do your astrometric calculation again. And there's a script within PixInsight to do that, and you get all of the nice bits and pieces, you know, your what your focal length was, pixel size, all the other odds and ends in there, as well as having re-updating the FITS header. Having the astrometric calculations a requirement for the next stage, which is the color calibration. So the new tool within PixInsight is using data to understand what an area of sky should look like to give you the correct white balance. And something to check after that, it shows these lovely graphs. As long as the green plots are somewhere running along the graph, things are cool. You're okay to proceed. So denoising. I use NoiseXterminator, which is an AI tool. Like with any tool, you can go way too far. This is lovely. Look at this lovely and smooth background, but we've introduced artifacts all over the place. What are these bits here? What are these little dots here? What's this dark dot here? Is that real? Is that Memorex? So I usually process with a background that doesn't look flat. I still like a bit of sort of granularity within that background, because I think then I know that I'm not introducing any artifacts. I will check the stars, make sure I'm not putting any rings around the stars. You've got all this isophotes coming around the galaxy here. You don't want that. So drop those sliders back. What I do is separately denoise the intensity and the color, so you have control over color and control over the harshness of your denoiser. And I usually run for more iterations than the standard. It takes longer, but you get a better result. So this is the image after it's been denoised. Again, you can see all this mottled rubbish. It's not real. It's an artifact of the camera, something that we have to live with. And I'm sure that there are some image processors out there who can tell me how better to get rid of that. But the way I've been doing it is to compress the stretch. So I'm losing this detail. So you'll see that my histogram, rather than being extended, is actually been compressed, and I've clipped some of the black as well. But again, not going so far. You'll still see that there's a bit of noise in the background in the background there. I think if you go to there are temptations to overclip, make the sky look as black as possible, but the sky doesn't look black. And that's the final sort of stretched image. So we've gone from the raw to a linear compressed, to a linear stretched image. and we still see some of the mush in the background, but it's not as obvious. We can see the outer ring. We can see that there's a differentiation between the outer ring and the inner ring, and where the inner ring and outer ring connect. So, like all color cameras, you over green. You've got two lots of green, two sets of green pixels, because you've got most of the time you've got something like the Seestar is a green, red, blue, green array. So I use the SCNR tool to remove the green. If it was a RGBR, then you'd remove the red. And I usually remove that between 90 and 100% of that additional green. So the next phase is your deconvolution phase. And yes, I've paid the money, and I've bought StarXtreminator as well. And again, like with any tool, you just need to be aware of what you're doing, what you're processing, what the details that you're pulling out. Is that detail real? Bearing in mind this is a 50mm scope, so you're not going to get super fine resolution anyway. So I usually check against resources. I've got books, check against the internet. Am I doing something that isn't real on the image? And again, I quite like stars, so I don't take my stars. I don't remove my stars. I don't make stars impossible to see on the image. The stars are a part of the astrophysics of the image, especially emission nebula. They're what have made that emission nebula. So I think that you should see the stars in your image, but that's personal choice. Having said that, I do split the images apart. So I want now to be able to process the extended object differently to the stellar object. Now, if I would have just put a grayscale mask over the combined image, whenever I change any sliders, it's going to affect both my stars and the galaxy. So I use StarXtreminator to split them apart, and different tools will have different mechanisms of doing this. And then I'll put a grayscale mask onto the images, so that I may be protecting the background, so I can adjust the detail of the galaxy, or swap it over, so I can then start to apply a bit more, start to remove a bit more of the background. And the same thing for the stars as well. The local histogram equalization process within PixInsight can be really useful, especially if you've got extended objects in there. It's not something that I'll always run. I might try it, and I think actually it doesn't help, and I'll take it off and won't use it. But and this one, I think it does. It sort of brings out some of the detail of the spiral arms within the core of the galaxy. And what it's going to do is a bit like curves. It's a bit like when you're doing curve processing, and you're sort of being selective on what areas you're enhancing and bringing down. Having said that, I will also do curve processing for the luminance, RGB, and also in the last part I will do it on the saturation. So I'll bring the saturation levels up on the stars and the extended object as well. So then you've got your stars and your starless image, and we recombine those using pixel math. and that's a standard equation for bringing the two images back together. And then the final image. So yeah, we've still got some of the mottled rubbish in the background. It was hard to process that completely out because I wanted to retain this outer ring of star formation. And we've got some of the colour seeping through into that that ring there as well. It's just, you know, I say folks here it may be folks here that can tell me how to process that differently, so that this is probably a nice sort of colourless image. We've got a bit of colour in here, so we can see some of the dust lanes, spiral arms, and again the comparison with the Hubble Atlas of Galaxies. So it's you know, for a little 50 millimeter scope on 3 near full moon nights, I think that's a pretty reasonable image. So finally, yeah, I have tried things like Mosaic Mode. So yeah, that took 5 hours to do. To be honest, if I want to do sort of like wide field imaging, I probably wouldn't use the Seestar for it. I use a Seestar for objects that are going to be beneficial for the Seestar. You can do it, but I'd rather have 5 hours pointing at M94 and get some decent data, where I've got 5 hours here. The majority of the time is probably in the center, and then the way the Seestar works, it sort of moves the scope around. So you can see here that in this column is a bit here, over here it's a bit noisy on the edges, where it's it hasn't got the same level of integration. Yeah, it's nice if you want to have wide field view, go ahead, play with it, but I don't think it's for me. If I wanted wide field mode, I'd go off and buy a dwarf to give me that, or a Seestar 30. And then a few images from Uckfield, well, just slightly north of Uckfield, from the little Seestar. This one I was really chuffed with. So get M16 in February. That was quite a yeah. I was really impressed, and to get the tails on the antennae galaxies. And then finally, there's some resources that I've put at the back of this pack, and that's it, guys. So I'll put my pictures back up there, and say any more questions, and open the floor. Is anybody anything else to share, or yeah, anything else to say?
You got any before and after processing examples of the same image?
So let me pull up that image of let me file, just close that down. Right, so that's a before image, Carol.
I can't see your screen.
Hold on, I'll stop sharing, didn't I? Okay, so that's a before image. So this is the M94 process. So the left hand side is directly out of the box. So that's that spot you get when after you've had like 6 hours on M94, and it saves it on your phone. This is where I've processed it with the within the Seestar, and then what I'll do is jump forward. Oh, wasn't what I was hoping for it to do. and then that's it processed within PixInsight.
Big difference. Mm.
So yeah, I think, yeah, as I say, yes, you can process it on the Seestar, and if you don't have any other option, then brilliant, go ahead and do it on the Seestar. It's you're gonna be still be amazed, I think, with the images that the little scope can give for you. But if you are able to process it either using Photoshop, MaxDL, PixInsight, Siril, whatever, then I think that you get more control over the image. You're stacking. So certainly the Siril stacking is rejecting any really duff frames, whereas the Seestar sort of is processed all of the all of the frames. So although it's rejecting some, so I had 14 hours. So I was pointing at M94 for 14 hours. I've only actually used 6 hours of that time, but that was because two of those nights were pretty much near full moon. So I think it's rejected a lot of the images where it's been washed out by the moon. If that was 14 hours of actual dark nights, then we would see a lot more in the used in the final image.
Paul, it's Jeff Lewes here in Norfolk. Thanks for letting me join. You're using Siril. Is that simply because to stack? I mean, is that simply because of this Windows constraint that I didn't know about that you've mentioned? You're not using PixInsight to do your stacking.
So I just think that PixInsight stacking is really good. I really like it. I like it for sort of traditional processing. But the Siril is so much easier. It's nice and easy. It's very fast as well. And it'll happily. I think some of that the reject algorithm it's easier to understand. So yeah, you could do the alignment in PixInsight as well. But I just sort of found Siril and it works nicely for Seestar images.
Okay, so I have PixInsight. I'm not familiar with Siril at all. But can you put the 4,000 subs into PixInsight, or are you constrained?
I haven't tried it. Okay. I'm not sure whether. So it might give it a whirl, I think, and I would sort of hope that PixInsight would manage it the same way as Siril and convert that into a combined FITS file. It might not, so you might have to do that separately.
Okay, thank you.
So Pix array, FITS array even. I'll get one. Yeah.
Paul, obviously you concentrated a lot on deep sky imaging, and I've been looking at that myself, but I'm interested quite a lot as well. I know Seestar's no good really for planetary, but for lunar images, it's quite good.
Yes.
Have you done quite a bit of lunar imaging or not? And if so, what processes have you used for that?
So lunar imaging, I process it in PixInsight again. Oh. So lunar and solar. I know there are probably sort of other software packages that you can use. I haven't really spent long enough playing with them to get the most out of them. but yeah, so Luna. So there's the well, I'll find the auto stack art. That's what I use for stacking the videos, the AVI videos of the moon and sun. I usually sort of create the FITS file and then go process it elsewhere. But there are lots of options for processing lunar and solar images, and folks are much better. Folks much better than me. I've only really sort of dabbled with some of the solar stuff and lunar stuff. But so we did do was recently astronomy. Oh, the other thing that I sort of might mention. So if I look at so 2019, so I've got a digital camera. So my filing mechanism changed with the Seestar. And it's just firing up my NAS box. What I used to do, or what I do for like CCD images, for digital camera images, I'll store them in the date that I took them. It's taken a while to fire that up. So I have the date I took the images, and then the detail of the images and maybe the scope that I've used. But with the Seestar, I changed the way I'm storing the images. So rather than storing them by date of I've taken them, I'll store them by object. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, so in my M94 subs, I've now got all the 5,000 images that were used in M94, so I can just add more FITS files to that, and then chuck them into Siril to combine them, rather than having to think, oh, what day did I take this? What day did I take that? So yeah, I've sort of changed the way that my filing works on the for astro images.
Paul, there have been a few chats while you've been talking. I just wonder whether you want to just pick up on any of the points that have been raised.
Let me have a look, see if I can find the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing and chat. Oh, yeah, 13 questions. Yeah, got a couple from Richie. Yeah. Okay.
Here's one that you can answer, Dave. Regina says, has anyone tried planetary with the Seestar or dwarf?
Well, I mean, planetary, I don't think is very good with the Seestar at all. Same with the dwarf as well.
Sorry, I was including the moon in that.
Yeah, I mean, Lunar is good, very good, yes. I think, but other planets is very poor.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I only tried it the once.
I think they're probably too small, aren't they?
I mean, maybe in about 10 years' time, when smart telescopes get a lot better, and they might have 150mm apertures, and they might be good for planetary, but not at the moment.
No.
Yeah, so you only got a 250mm focal length, so you need something like 1200mm, 900 to 1200mm focal length to start getting anything decent out of the planets. So Richard, you mentioned that there are some folks doing stacking a small number of subs and doing a and then doing a restack. So that's interesting.
Yeah, somebody put up a lovely image the other day. I can't remember what it was, on one of the official ZWO forums on Facebook, and I queried how they'd done it, and they said they stacked a small number in each part and then put it all together as one. So they do like series of small stacks and then stacked all the stacks together.
That's interesting.
I was going to tell you that on Dwarf 3, at the moment, it has an AI noise reduction for 3 minutes after every image, which you can opt in or opt out. And it pulls out Monkey Head Nebula, for instance, out of the sky. And you think, how the hell did it do that? All the noise just disappears. But I haven't looked hard enough to see if it's put artifacts back in. But it just makes me just fall off my chair, because the previous image just before the 3 minutes was grainy.
I know exactly what you mean. On the Seestar, I've been trying the denoise. The AI processing. I don't know whether I put it up in the LAS group or on the Smart Imaging group, Paul, but I did a comparison between the two of M42 that I processed in Siril, Photoshop, and one that had come out of the Seestar with the AI output from it, and it had introduced a whole bunch of white around M42. So there was a black outline and then a white bit around the outside. So
yeah. So I
don't trust it.
No, I think if you process it yourself, I think if it's not destructive to your raw images that you're going to save on your smart telescope, then use it, because it'll certainly if you want to say, okay, it's taken 10 minutes. What can I see? Is that in the right place? Is it looking okay? Then maybe use that, and then do a longer run, but then do your processing off of the smart telescope. I think it just gives you that bit more control. You can see what your what it's doing, and you can sort of double check each step rather than just let it go off. And it certainly, Monkey Head, it's there, brilliant. Okay, well, you got 5 minutes. We'll maybe do a 5-hour run, and then the more data that you have, the better your image will be. Your image never gets worse by having more data.
I mean, you're making me think now whether I can cheat. And first of all, I'm going to ask Dwarf whether the AI noise reduction changes the fit files. And secondly, whether I could cheat their software in the future, maybe, and just give them 3 days of, give poor old Dwarf 3 days data and go and create its own JPEG, and have a look for me. I think that would be a fun. They may be interested. I think that'd be a fun thing to do.
Simon, I tried that on the Seestar. It broke it. It can't do it. It literally does not have enough storage space. So, I don't know how much storage space the Dwarf 3 has, but on I think it's 60 odd or 56 gig available on the
Okay,
Seestar.
I've got 256, I think. So I've got quite a lot.
Well, try it then, because there's now a in the Seestar you can load up a series of images into the Seestar and then tell it to reprocess them, and it takes hours. It takes, you know, a hell of a lot of time. But I loaded up all of my Horsehead Nebula, Horsehead and Flame data, managed to get all of the FITS files into the Seestar, pushed the button, and it just went, there is not enough space available. So I actually put I've put a request in to the development team to let us plug external SSDs in.
Yeah.
So that you can actually do that within the Seestar. But to be honest with you, Siril's better.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to do that. To be able to, so if you were away, and I want to do a bit of solar imaging and a bit of nighttime imaging. Well, do 10-minute, 15-minute solar AVI. You got no space left to do any nighttime imaging. So it would be nice to be able to, as you say, Richie, plug a stick into the USB-C and either put data into the Seestar or take it out of the Seestar and stick it onto the memory stick, so that
you can sort of anyway. So you can. There's two ways you can do it. You can plug it in to your PC. Or the way I do it is I set up station mode to connect to a local Wi-Fi, and that can include a hotspot on your phone as well. And then you can actually download the data whilst the Seestar is imaging directly onto a PC. What I tend to do is I will grab images directly off the Seestar. I'll put a note in the chat on how to do that.
Cool.
So you just basically go to, once you're in station mode, which, like I said, Paul, the how-to images, I don't know how you get to them to everybody here, but the how-to images are in the WhatsApp group. If you pull them up, you can, I've put the steps in there and drawn on them.
Everybody here is on the WhatsApp. So everybody has access to that.
Top tip. Change the name of your Seestar and change the password. People have been going to star parties and not being able to find their own Seestar.
That's a good tip.
That's a good tip.
And B, the default password is 12345678. You don't change that.
Yeah.
Anybody can get into your Seestar.
Does that mean they can pinch your data as well?
Oh yes. They can do what they want. They can control it. They can go to guest mode. They can, apparently, I saw a report from a star party when apparently everybody got really confused because they hadn't changed all their default information. And that's when this suggestion came out. And then people were connecting to somebody else's Seestar and monkeying around with it.
By the way, you're all going on about moon and sun using AVI using video. On the dwarf, I'm getting it all stacked. It's TIFFs. I'm stacking it, and so I'm really, when I've got 42 moon stacks, I really have.
When you say you've got 42, you've got 42 exposures, sub-exposures.
Yes.
Only 42.
Well, I could do more. I get bored after, it'll reject about 70% of them, and then it just stacks about 42 of them, and that's by the time I got past 3, it's pretty damn good. But I mean,
hang on a minute. Let me get this straight in my head. It's throwing away 70% of the images.
Well, I must ask Dwarf why it does that, but it does. Very often, if I try, I was going to ask you more controversial things. If I go for 120-second exposures, which I can on the Dwarf, it starts rejecting a hell of a lot of them. They must be awful. So that I understand. But when it does sun and moon, it does reject an awful lot of them. And I must ask Dwarf why it does that. Whereas when it's doing monkey head, I probably only get about 2 rejections using, say, 30 seconds or 45 seconds.
But you're saying a TIFF comes up. So it's taking a movie.
No, I don't believe it's taking a movie.
Well, if you set it for 120 seconds, that's not.
No, I'm not doing it like that. So on Dwarf, I set it up in photo mode, moon track or sun track. Then I put it into Astro mode. Then I set the shutter speed gain, so on. Off it goes, and it starts stacking away. It's not a movie. Definitely not a movie. I have movie function. I'm not downloading a movie.
Oh, because I've only ever done lucky imaging on the moon and the sun with a movie, with a raw movie.
Okay, I don't think I'm doing that. Honestly,
that's the way to go. That's the way to go.
Oh, really?
Because other
I'll have to ask them if that's what it's effectively doing.
Well, it isn't if it's chucking away 70% for you.
Yeah, right.
Because what you can do is certainly on the Seestar, and if you put it onto movie mode on the Dwarf, I'm sure it will do the same.
It will.
It'll write a raw movie, like an AVI or an MP4, but it'll write it in raw format. Then you chuck it into Auto Stack Art, or in the old days you used to use Registacks. Chuck it into that, and then you can specify your alignment points and all that sort of stuff, and it'll measure the quality of the images, and then you can say, keep this lot, reject that lot, and you'll get that's where lucky imaging started, really.
I think mine's stacking, but I will check with Dwarf. I'll get that confirmed.
Yeah, it might be stacking it. You say it's saving it as TIFF files.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's saving them as TIFF files. I can go in there tonight and have a look.
Yeah.
Got some images.
It might be effectively doing the lucky stacking within. So do you have to press the button to take a photograph, or are you just saying start solar imaging? I start solar imaging. I could then I could say to it, take 200 images, but it'll probably only collect about 30%. Yeah.
Wow.
It sounds like a high reject rate, but I guess it's probably doing some sort of lucky imaging.
Okay, I'll ask them
within it. But yeah, but as Richie says, if you save it as a raw AVI and then process it off on your PC, again you've got more control, and you've got different software packages that may manage to pull out more of the information and be less, you end up rejecting less.
I think Siril will also do planetary as well, and lunar. Oh, not planetary, lunar and solar, because it is set up for registration and all that sort of stuff. And it's interesting you're using PixInsight as well, but I've started using all Siril now, and it works really well.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah. I think if I wasn't used to using PixInsight, I would probably, if I was coming to it new, I would use Siril all the way through. And there's lots of tutorials out there. But I'm just used to the workflow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I paid for Max in. Yeah, we've had this discussion years ago. So so I'm reluctant to pay another 300 quid for PixInsight. Yeah.
Well, and as you say with Siril, we don't need to. It's again, being open source, and there's lots of contributors add into Siril. It's it's pretty good tool.
Well, Paul, I'd like to thank you very much for, first of all, offering and then giving your tutorial this evening. And I think it's been extremely valuable for us, and particularly myself, who's a bit of a novice. So also the fact that we've had a combined evening with members from Lewes. And Jeff, did you say you were from Lewes as well?
No, that's my surname. It was a joke.
I know it's your surname, but
I'm a different Lewes Astro Society.
Okay. Right. And so what I will do, once we all sign off, I'll make sure I pick up the recording. I will send it to you, Paul.
Thanks, Jim.
I don't know how big the file will be, but we'll get it to you, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can decide how we at OAS distribute it, or whether we can put it on our website. And I'm sure you could do something similar with the Lewes website.
Cool.
So I think that's been a very useful discussion right at the end. So unless anyone else wants to raise any questions, perhaps
one last one.
Okay, Carol.
Can you use narrowband on these smart scopes at all?
So
because I'm pretty sure your Helix was using narrowband, wasn't it?
So the Seestar has a dual band. So dwarf, you can I think it has a filter that you put on over the top. I think, well, it might be inside. So I know the most expensive one is the £2,000 smart telescope. Is you put the filters on the object lens of the scope. I'm not sure how it stops it from fogging up, but with the Seestar, it's got a dual band filter. So you've got a HA03 dual band filter that you can choose to switch in or out, or there's a luminance filter, so an IR block effectively. So that's through the HA, but nothing longer than that.
So Carol is running a imaging competition for us, and what we've had to do was to separate out smart scope images from traditional. But hopefully, Carol, now you've got an insight into way that post-processing can also occur with the smart images. So we'll keep them separate for the moment, but maybe in future they'll all come together again.
There are certainly Facebook groups that have unprocessed images and Facebook groups that have processed images. So it is even a divide amongst smart telescope users. Some are proudly unprocessed and some are proud to have processed them. And with the Dwarf 3, the dual band filter is built in, as is the IR cut and the effectively sky glow type filter that they've got in there. They've got 3 filters. But Paul is absolutely right. They used to just have a magnetic or a screw-in filter that you put on the outside, but they've obviously gone internal.
Cheers, sorry.
Okay, well, thanks once again, Paul. If everyone's happy that they've received lots of useful information this evening, I certainly think it's been extremely helpful. And potentially opportunities for further tutorials in future, and certainly we would be happy to host others should anyone wish to provide further ones. So thanks to you all. Thanks to members from Lewes and to Jeff who've joined us this evening. I think I made a total of 18 people overall, so I think it's been very well attended, and we look forward to other opportunities doing something similar.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Really useful. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Okay, I'm going to say goodbye, but I will make sure I get the recording.
Thank you.